Welcome to the Back of the Class podcast on Worth Every Penny Entertainment. This is your host, Penny, and this is another special episode. I have another one of my close peoples that I'm proud to celebrate for what they do. It's a little bit of a different interview because we usually shoot for the entertainment guests, and look to entertain. But today we're going to inform. We have a friend of mine I went to high school with, who's grown to be an educator, an activist, and I thought I was going to be able to remember it. An educator, activist, and a visionary. And if this don't explain it, she actually just put out a book, her and a couple of other authors. So without further ado, let me introduce, this is Taaj Williams, everybody. Welcome, Taaj, to the Back of the Class. And just like all my guests, you've been here for a while. Everybody catches me and set up. But thanks for coming through, Taaj, because I know we talked about doing this, but we just talked about it and we are already doing it. So, say what's up to everybody,
Well, hi. Thank you for having me. I've only seen I seen your show with Style.
Mm.
And that was just like, I remember sitting there because another of our classmates had showed and shared it with me.
Okay.
And I was just like, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Literally, I don't even think this was a whole 2 weeks ago. And then here we are. So I'm proud of you. This is awesome. Keep going. This is amazing. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's what's up. Well, Taaj, I'm glad that it did catch your attention in that way because part of my inspiration in doing this, besides some other reason, is to celebrate our people. I celebrate myself, like I told you. I built this platform to show some of my talents. I end up podcasting now, but as I did some of the comedians and rap artists that we have in entertainment, you as an educator, that catches me. I know you personally, so I know you've always been into education. But the activist part, that's something that we haven't connected in high school. We was always cool. That's something that interests me. I want to start with that part. I know we said we was doing a book, but the activist part, where did that start? And where you at with that? Like, are you into speaking or are you just more into just doing?
Kind of both, and that's interesting because I don't really know that I speak about that part of my world so much. But as you know, it started from a place of really being a sibling of someone who was murdered by the police.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then not only being a sibling of someone who was murdered by the police, but also the almost kind of like, I want to say the aunt of a son whose father was murdered by the police. Right? So
go ahead.
And in those instances, you know what I mean? It's like we see them, we experience them, we experience them from a level of, I could see it but I can't touch it. I could be upset at the George Floyds and the Trayvon Martins and the, you know what I mean? The list goes on and on, but to actually be a person who has experienced that firsthand, it's a different kind of life.
That was one of the things I was thinking about, and I didn't know if you really wanted to speak about it because I saw you speak about it in a couple of your lives before, and I haven't experienced that, so I know it's something that could never go away. But one thing I was thinking, I was like, when Taaj went through that was when we was in high school in the 90s. That was before things like that was trending, but poor people was really putting that stuff out. So I've seen some of the stuff back then you was even advocating, definitely for your brother as you should have, and I would expect you to, but you were doing what people was doing now, and to get to see, we get more of an insight into it now. Mm-hmm. I have more of a compassion for it, but speak about that, Taaj, because back then there wasn't no social media and stuff, so I've seen y'all did get out in the streets and everything like that. How was it to not have that? it definitely was a struggle. And like, how was it for you to go through that back then in that time?
I mean, I remember being a little girl, you know what I mean? And we would see shows like Roots and all of these other. Roots was the main show for me, and it's so interesting because the first time that I ever saw Roots was in school. I was going to Franklin High School, which is now considered Whitney Houston Academy.
Okay.
But the principal then,
That's East Orange?
That's East Orange.
Okay.
The principal then, Mr. Hamilton.
Okay.
He's still the principal now. He was the principal then back in fourth grade, and he's the principal now. So like, to me, that school has a lot of culture. It has a lot of, like, you know what I mean, the what teaching is about. You know what I mean? That's what I could say, knowing that man is still there.
Yeah.
So we watched Roots in class, and it was something that I had never seen before. You know what I'm saying? And then you seen the way we were whipped and beaten. You know what I mean? And then when you look at movies like, I don't know if you've seen Birth of a Nation, more recently, The 24th, Judas and the Black Messiah. Like we seeing all of these movies, right? Malcolm X, right? Like we seeing all these movies, and we seeing how people have been murdered and beaten, and it doesn't really quite matter because you're black. So for me, it's like living that and learning that. Like I look Emmett Till situation, honestly, is more relative to my brother's situation because they beat my brother to death. A lot of the stuff that we hear about nowadays, they shooting, whatever. My brother was beaten to death. So when I saw pictures of his body laying in a morgue, he was severely beaten. And my brother was like this complexion.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're telling me that he died of an asthma attack.
And this is good. And so you got to see. So let me clarify this, Taj. So you saw police brutality up front, right, as a teenager in high school. Me and you the same age. You saw a lot of these systematic things that this documentary is about. And recently, when you talk about these things, all of these things mean something. From Emmett Till, let's just say the one that we know about that's been documented, down to the levels of our peoples here that's not been on the news and not been made history of. But one thing that hit me recently, and let me just clarify, is this Women's History Month, or was it like Women's History Day or Woman Day, or what was that the other day?
It was International Women's Day,
now,
but this is the National Women's Month or something like that.
I don't celebrate holidays, but I never celebrated that extra holiday. But seriously, this year, I have that energy.
Okay.
You here, my wife is here. Mm. My mom, for my sister, and just for black women in general, because let me tell you what I saw the other day. I saw the documentary about Sandra Bland. Mm. And before I get into that, because I want to know how you feel as a black woman, what I got totally over that is a lot of these things cautioned us, men and women, to look out after our black boys and men. Even though we knew we had to, I never opened my eyes to that level that we had to protect our women on that level from those same brutalities that your brother went through. When I saw the documentary on her too, it made me think about y'all. Because let me tell you one thing about this, Taj, and then let me let you respond to that. We talked about Sahara, where she's at, and she's growing into a young woman where her personality, she's a natural black woman. You're a natural black woman. She's a natural black woman. What I saw in that Sandra Bland thing was all of the stuff that happened to her was because she was an outspoken black woman. That's where that started. And whether she was right or wrong, the guy was intimidated. I've been a man that's been intimidated by an aggressive black woman, and I had to learn how to handle it. I'm glad I did. I'm proud of myself that I did, because I had 5 boys to teach that lesson. But you shouldn't have to not be who you are. You shouldn't have to not be proud because because you're scared of that. You know, like they teach us, we should have to not be ourselves. How do you feel about that, Taj? Like, do you feel that temperature too? That as a woman, you have to be that careful.
I feel like this, and this is where my faith comes in, because I can't become the very thing that I despise.
Okay, but what does that mean?
So if I despise people who are hurtful and disgusting and rude and mean and cruel and inhumane, insensitive, unmoral, you know what I mean? I have to decide every day to be a different type of way and be very intentional and very purposeful about being a good person despite of. And I have to teach my daughter that you can't walk in fear, because the minute that you walk in fear, you almost already lost. So we can't operate from a place of fear in no area of our lives. Like be who you are, be who God intended for you to be. Because at the end of the day, that's what I mean. At this point in my life, I look out at everything. It's almost like if you're doing right by God, no matter whatever God you serve, and I always say this, everybody serves a different God. You call them something different, but ultimately I've come to know that it's the same. So my thing is like, if you're doing whatever you have to do right by God, then you're gonna be covered. You know what I'm saying? And so like for me, I every day I just decide. You know what I mean? I decide not to live in fear. I don't. I had somebody text me like the next day after Sahar left, and it was like, "Are you having separations, anxiety? Are you feeling some type of way?" And I'm like, "No, like I'm good. Like I don't live in fear. I think about my daughter. It's a gut feeling that naturally, we was talking about this, like her being away from me, knowing that she has to do life without me, right then, right there, it's something in my womb that makes me feel very unnerved by that. However, I'm not fearful. You know what I mean? It's like I'm allowing the feelings to happen and learning how to do this new norm, because now I have to learn how to innately parent my child from afar. And it's very, it takes a lot to just, fathom. And so by what I mean by in terms of like just being able to walk, by faith, walk by my faith, walk by what I know God is doing in my life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I know that I am covered because I have some of the things that I've seen and been through and come through, and still be able to have a good heart and still want good for the world and want good for others. It becomes.
Yeah, I got you. So I'm be all over the place, but listen. So now let's get a little bit into the author part, because everything goes hand in hand too, I believe, because at the end of the day, I do believe it's about you putting out a positive message from different walks. So as an author, before we get into the actual book, I want to know what made you, everybody don't go that route, but everybody come to those different, where they have things they want to get out, but what made you feel like you wanted to go the book route?
Well, I always loved writing, ever since I was a little girl. And I didn't realize that it was, a thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so as I got older, I started to realize I had more of a passion for it. Like I went to college, I remember, having to write my first essay, and I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? I enjoyed being able to thoroughly express myself. That's what I think it comes down to. It's like, I always say, and I say this to my daughter, like, everybody speaks their own language. You know what I mean? You speak a language, you speak your language, she speaks her language, I speak my language. Until we learn each other's language, and which is going to take effort from both of us, that's the relationship building that has to happen. Mm-hmm. Two people can't just come together and say, "Oh, we're in a relationship." No, a relationship is to be built, is to be cultivated. You can't just come and just say, "Oh, we're together." No, we gotta learn one another first. We gotta learn how we operate. So with that, it's like it takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy, it takes two people. A lot of people don't really they don't have like an invested interest in the process. They just want quick, instant gratification. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like that's where it comes from. It comes from that need, that want to be able. I know if I write, I can express myself, and anybody can read. And even if they read it and they don't understand it, then at least I know that my words are written, and for the people who can understand it and comprehend and understand that language that I'm speaking, then that's for them.
Are you writing for cause only, or are you writing for the art of writing too? So what I mean by that is it going to be more than just experiences and just like, you know, teaching objects? Is it going to be more like novels and different type of experiences?
For the most part, it's going to be informational. You know what I mean? Because mostly, I realized too more recently, even with writing my books, I realized something, you know, in my journeys of education. So like going to studying different topics. So from the things that I've studied and the things that I've learned from each of those areas, I can now take those things and build off of what I've learned. And not only what I've learned, but what I have implemented, what I have applied, what I have executed, you know, upon, like used it, utilized it.
Because and that kind of explains the name of the book, which is
Journey to Greatness.
Journey to Greatness. So
Volume 2.
So are you a part of Volume 1?
No.
So they mix up all of the whole roster on each book?
You said they mixed it up.
Like, it's how many of y'all is on this book?
I think it's 11. Is it more than that? I don't know. I think it's like 11 or 12.
So remember I told you when I got to yours, I always stopped so I could start. But listen, I didn't go past. I thought it was like 4 or 5. Like you at least you early enough in the book.
Yeah.
But so you said this. So now, and the book is. Say it again.
Journey to Greatness.
Journey to Greatness.
Volume 2.
Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, so obviously, were you approached for this, or is this something that you looked into and found your way?
It was something that, one of my coaches, it was a thing that she had going on, you know what I mean? And so I know when she did the first one last year, I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At some point, I want to do it. And then at some point, you know, I want to do my own. So I was like, you know, let me just see what it's about. Let me go and, you know, apply. I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to talk about. So much time was going by, and the deadline started to approach for our information or whatever, for our words.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so it came to me. And it came to me because my mentor, her birthday was like around that time frame. And then I remember I couldn't figure out what I was going to gift her. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what can I gift her? You know what I mean? And then so I looked up some stuff like what to gift your mentor or something like that. And then this clip, I think, came up on like YouTube or something. I think it was on YouTube. But it was like, you know, what to gift your guru. And then it was this man, he was just basically saying like, the gift that you give your guru is to bloom.
I could go with that. Because for a person I look at a mentor as somebody that's directing and leading. Yep. They're supposed to, in a sense, be ahead of you.
Yep.
Even if not in, you know, life. But I could see that, and I could, yeah. But, so when they come to you with it, they wanted you to, I guess, it was your road to greatness. But when they say that, your road to greatness, you might not have got there yet. To the peak of it. So was it just a thing of your accomplishments at this point in life that they wanted you to get into? Because the bio, that's basically what it does. It explains you in a whole, but those open-ended because that stuff, activism goes on. Education.
It's not about me being an activist though. It's more so about my journey.
Okay.
And like you're saying, I think I agree with you. Your journey don't stop until it's over. You know what I mean? Right. So, but as of right now, it's like there's a quote, I don't know who said it, but he was like, those who knew they were great, those who were great knew they were great before anybody else did. So like, your greatness, your power. I know my greatness. I know my power. I don't have to walk and tiptoe around people and feel uncomfortable and that they don't, or that they might feel uncomfortable with it. It's like, that don't have nothing to do with me. So like, as I walk in my greatness and I walk in my journey of knowing that I want better for myself, knowing that I'm going to stop at nothing to get it, knowing that I'm not going to compromise who I am for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? From my core. Like, for example, right? This is just coming to my mind. Like, as a woman, as a Black woman, and an educated woman, when you go into different areas, there are so many trials and tribulations, right? If you go into an area of, you want a job, and you might have a friend that can put you in, you know what I'm saying? But this particular friend feel like, oh, if he's a male, a Black male, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. This particular dude is like, oh, I could get you in, but what you gonna give me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, I could get you in there, but how you want to get in there?
Yeah.
Right? So then that's one area. Then we dealing with another area, like in corporate America. Some of the things that I've seen is like, you come across Black women that want to give you most of a problem. Like, feeling threatened, you know what I mean? Feeling uncomfortable. So when I go up in a place and it's like, you don't see that many of us, it's like, oh, I'm excited, but it's almost like you looking at me like I'm the enemy. And we should be trying to figure out what we're going to do to come together. So I'm experienced in elderly Black women. So I'm a younger Black woman. I'm a Black woman. I'm educated. I'm strong. I'm loving. I'm peaceful. I'm not an angry Black woman, but I'm firm. I'm solid. You know what I'm saying? So people... But this is like, I'm just sharing with you, like, this is the things that we gotta walk with, you know what I mean? And so on top of everything else that we have to, we're expected to be, you know what I mean? It becomes very tricky.
Did you interact with the other authors that was in the book with you, like, during the process?
I did not. Maybe like one of them, because we shared a space together and had a conversation. So one of them is Dr. Zapata. She's amazing. She's like she's a physician, and so her practice, I think, is like pediatrics and stuff. And so one of the things that she does outside of her medical practice is she writes books and help young women with like self-identity and, you know what I mean, just being able to, know who they are and be comfortable, Black girls. Because she, one of the books, she has like a series, and so the second series, her daughter is actually, her face is on the cover. So every series, she put like a different picture on the cover. But yeah, and these books are amazing. She's galvanizing young Black women as a Black doctor, you know what I mean? And then she's so beautiful. She got her locks, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like she's who she is. And then it's like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And she's very successful with it. So
that's what's up. So overall, would you say you enjoyed the process with this book?
Absolutely. I think it's still a learning curve, you know what I mean? Because I feel like this is just the beginning. Like, we did the root work to it, you know what I mean? We had to, like, be organized and diligent, you know what I mean? Make this deadlines involved. So, but I feel like that's like, when it launched, it was just like, we just had got the message like a couple of minutes, like maybe like earlier that day.
And even with me, but that's why I said that's important. I downloaded, especially the free one, because I'm like, oh, it's finished, it's done. I saw you put the post or whatever, and I'm like, that's what's up. Let me go check it out. Not for nothing, and without knowing what it's about, that's what things started. That's what things started at, and I'm glad you did do that, because I think that you do have a very good perspective to share to the women out here and just to people. One of the things that I like to bring together is those type of people that we can, come together and do some good stuff, and then, reach out to other people. So let's get with you being an educator, which is one of the I think that's what we got the most in common, that we talked about the most, from our own children to just our experiences with education to my interest in your experience in education. You know, I worked in the schools, but first let's talk about your experience. I know that you did go to college and stuff like that. You came out and you did teach. You started teaching when? What year?
I think 2016.
But you started at elementary or high school in actually?
I started in. It's interesting because I was like all around.
So you were
I worked
subbing?
through an agency as a substitute teacher.
Only reason I asked because I was a security guard in like my mid-20s, and they would tell us that it would be challenging, and it was in certain ways, but not the ways they think. But just us being younger, a little close to them in age, and I think for our generation, we wasn't. No matter what we were mindful. I think we were mind strong. So even at our young ages, we was already trying to teach the younger ones. Right. So as a teacher in your 20s, going into those schools with them teenagers, you know, them big seniors, men and women that think that they can be on your level. How was that for you to be on the other side that early? Because it was still fresh to you. You know, from coming out of high school and college, from being a student to being a teacher. How was it for you?
Oh, no. So I didn't go directly into teaching. I went directly, so straight from high school. I took a minute, then I went to college. So when I went to college first for early childhood development and education. So that was my field of study. Then after
early childhood development and education. Okay, that's like preschool.
Pretty much. It's
cool.
it's like just the early years.
Got you.
So with that, I worked at like the Air Force Base because I lived in a military town. So I worked at the Air Force Base working in their child development center. So that's why I kind of got a little bit more of the hands-on outside of the, you know, the learning or the education. And so after that, I relocated back to New Jersey from Virginia, and then I didn't work for a little while, but anything in that early childhood development industry wasn't paying well.
Okay.
So what I ended up doing was I had gotten a job. A friend of mine, Daisha, that we went to high school with, she had gotten me a job at Audible. I was doing like customer support or something like that, customer service, and then eventually I just ended up staying there. So I almost like grew up in that company. Like I worked there for like 8 years.
Real quick, we stayed at that company for 8 years, then we come back. So Daisha, right? I know she's been doing that like for the longest.
What?
She's in the Navy or the Army?
She's in the Air Force.
Air Force. So like, I just want to know, is she like, she been in the battlefield and stuff like that? I know you've been talking to her.
I don't know.
She ain't never shoot nobody now.
I don't know any of that. She's
all right,
in the Air
cool.
Force,
Let's go back to 8 years. I just want to know if she shot somebody or did anything. Because I seen one video, like, it looked like she was walking through the desert.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, go back to the 8 years, Taj. My bad. Because I would have forgot to ask you later. Go ahead. You talk about the 8 years. I'm sorry. When you relocated, you came back for 8 years when Daisha got you the job. Go ahead. Taj, listen, you follow your own storyline. You came back when you was at the point where she got you the job. When you found that it wasn't money in early education, you must have been trying to make a point.
All right, so yeah, I was trying to make a point.
See,
but so
you get used to me.
But she was like basically, I didn't finish out. I didn't stay into that field. So anyway, I grew up in that company, and I just ended up going back for like business. Like I went back to school for business, and then I just been working in like I was doing like corporate jobs ever since then.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I don't know. Eventually, I got back into education because I wanted to be closer to my daughter. Like, corporate jobs, they're very long hours, demanding. You know what I'm saying? You got to travel to get to them. So eventually, I just, like, opted for the substitute teaching because it was within the school hours of my daughter. So it was convenient.
in those early years of teaching, like you said, you wanted to be close to your daughter. Did you feel pressure that now I'm a teacher, so and my daughter's in school, like so, there's no excuse for her not to be, or was it like? Because I know she's naturally smart, but you know what I'm saying. If you're a teacher, it's like this. If you play teacher, if you're a teacher and your kid getting F's, they gonna look at you crazy. That's like if you're a coach and your son can't play, they gonna look at you crazy. Did you feel the pressure of that? Like, man, I'm a teacher. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, my mom's a teacher. Like, your mother's a teacher.
You know what though? I never was one of the mothers that pressured her to do anything but what she wanted to do. And I think the thing with her though, she is very smart. She's very intelligent from like a book smart.
Mm-hmm.
She, you know, I think common sense has to be taught.
I'm glad you said it because I was going to cut through the she got no common sense. That's all right.
I'm not going to say she don't have none because typically people don't, they either got one or the other. But I just know that it has to be taught. So that's been my focus.
So what you do is you mix the two. The fact you use her book smart to advantage. You teach her in book smart ways, the common sense stuff you want her to know. Because I know how that is. But you know what? That's the thing that comes with balance. But that's one of the things as a parent, I think you'd rather have that imbalance of they smart. But you know, they a little nerdy. Some kids are a little goofy.
And that's the thing, like my daughter, she's very like
cause they still a kid. Those things can shake off. But let me tell you something. Your kid dumb. Your kid dumb. Taj. If your kid dumb, he's dumb. That's just like when you're gonna even do like that, we gonna if your kid bad. Your kid bad.
But see, I don't really subscribe to those things either, though.
Hold on, what part of it? Because you worked in education. Let me tell you something. When I saw it all. So once I saw how the special ed department was ran, like the politics behind it, where just put it like this. It wasn't about you not being able to learn. It was a behavioral thing that they used to make it a big thing, budgetary and everything. It's a business. Education is a hustle.
Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Everything that you just said contradicts itself.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it cancels each other out.
Okay, what part?
If you got education and it's become a hustle, is it really education?
Terminology. So this is what I'm saying. Hold on, Taj. Don't do that. Don't be so. Now I don't know certain words, but I know how to use them. Don't be so naive. Listen to this.
No. I didn't
you
finish.
Charge.
What I'm trying to say to you, from an educator, from a mother, from a teacher, I don't educate my daughter based off of education's standards and.
See, so that's a difference. So that don't apply to you. So that don't apply to you though. But guess what? We talk about the masses, Ty. You working with the masses. What you do in your home is different from the masses. We just talked about how the teachers does something separate for hers.
This is not an argument.
I know, but I want to separate.
Because I want you to really understand where I'm coming from. I'm not going to say separate it because I can only tell you from my level of experience. So you have to hear me out. What I'm saying to you is like, at the end of the day, I see what's happening in these education facilities, institutions. They institutionalized. So for me, it's like, okay, I know that as a mother, I'm responsible to teach my daughter first. Mm-hmm. I'm supposed to let her know that before you go and learn anything in these schools and anything on the outside of here, I'm your mother, and you gotta understand that this is your first source of education.
So. Go ahead, keep going. Because now, if you want to look at it like that, Ty, let me tell you something. I was a security guard in the schools. I didn't understand how important that was. That's more than that. I was the first person they seen going through the door. I was the person where the school systematically, it was just enforcer, where they were making me a tool of the school to prison pipeline, where I chose to be otherwise like you. So where there was straight formalities to just kick the kid out, I went out my way to keep him in the building, even if he wasn't going to class. Because first and foremost, just off my own personal thoughts, it was my better interest to keep you in the building where you get in less trouble. I'd rather you get in trouble here in this building than police and stuff like that. I saw a lot of kids get their first charge over BS working in them schools. I saw a lot of kids just go unnoticed because of the formalities of it. So that's what I meant about it. Like, one of my things on Twitter I used to post, one of my hashtags was bring back basic skills. You know why? Because instead of where you had No Child Left Behind, where they just socially promoted you, basic skills where we worked on the skills that you specifically needed. So even if we sent you to some school, we passed you, sent you to some school, passed you, then the next year we worked on that to make sure you was okay. That was like looking into the child instead of what you can get from the child. Even though it was a business back then, nothing ever changes, things evolve. But another thing to me, and should you're a teacher, I embrace all teachers because I'm on with my children because I like the old school teachers. So I always question the experience of teachers because the old school teachers saw into that past just the curriculum. So it's the social skills and things like that, like we're enlightened now that they don't teach business and certain skills that the kids really gonna need in school. A lot of the things that, this country still is not built off of kids that go to college. And what I mean by that, it's not to shun none, it's to put things in their place. You got a lot of productive kids that just get thrown into the bottle if you go to college or not, that they don't know that I'm a working person to thrive at that area. So you as a teacher, you get to kind of correlate that. Because one of the biggest things is we were the last of the people that was hands-on and skills and talented only to this digital era. So we got to experience both of those. So you get to teach those kids how to really be talented and stuff like that, how to really reach into themselves. If you was teaching English, how to really be a writer and be creative as opposed to just knowing how to read good. That makes a big difference. I learned as an adult, you get just as far not knowing how to read but being creative that way. You know what I'm saying? As long as you got the proper balance. So that's what I meant about your contribution as a teacher. When you see these kids come through you as a teacher, I saw it in a different light. You see them on an educational side from who can learn and who can't, how they learn, and what the things from before they get there affects them in the classroom. Because you was in the classroom before the COVID.
I mean, I feel like this it's so heavy. I feel like my whole experience as a teacher has been extensive. This is not it. You know what I'm saying? Like when I started from being a substitute teacher, I used it more as a means to observe. You know what I mean? Like I was in different schools, different age groups, different cities. So I used that simultaneously, other than just, having a job or whatever and being able to be available for my daughter. I also use that substitute teaching as a form of observation so that I could figure out where do I want to be. Like what age group needs the most support or the most help. You know what I mean? Like which age group am I going to mesh better with? You know what I'm saying? So that leads me up to like before landing this position that I'm at right now in high school, I was at elementary school. And before that, I was at a middle school. So, just learning the different age groups, and so, but since I learned early childhood development and education, I knew the younger years. The younger years is typically like, 0 to like 7, you know what I mean? Infancy through 7. And so now I have not ever studied high school agers, but now that's what I've been like kind of studying because I have one of my own, and then it's the opportunity that's in front of me. You know what I'm saying? And it's amazing because I've also had a chance to mentor students. Like I've worked for like multiple nonprofit organizations, just volunteering as a mentor, like really just getting my hands on who they are, what are they about, what do they need, because ultimately they are the next up in terms of being future leaders. So right now we got a lot of people that didn't grow up in homes that nurtured them and catered to their growth and development. Not product, but growth and development. So it's like, you become lost out here. You know what I'm saying? Like we got a lot of people out here that's just lost because they didn't have the proper things that they needed to grow up and become. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of young men out here that's just in the streets. They don't want nothing for themselves. They was bored at school, so they end up flunking out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then it's just like, where do we go from there? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, I feel like working in high school has been like that target area where, you know, I could just try to like uplift them. And maybe this, you know, too is the answer to one of your questions. Like, I feel like my activism I know what it feels like to march and to protest and to, you know what I'm saying, keep fighting and standing outside talking about stuff that's, you know, who are we talking to? We're talking about the issues. We want people to honk their horn when they riding by. And this is to no disrespect to anyone. I love like POP, People's Organization for Progress. That's my family.
Okay.
This is a part of my family who adopted us when my brother was murdered. You know what I mean? And they have been fighting this fight for almost 22 years. So, but for me personally, I just feel like my activism has to be in another way, which is preparing our children for the future. Because if we are so focused on the past or focused on what's this, you know, this is not right, that's not working. We want what we want. I am an innovator. I birth things.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it like, okay, I want to get with the youth and the students who are ready to be prepared for what's coming tomorrow. Because we got to deal with what's happening 10 years from now. What is the world going to look like? What's the world going to look like 20 years from now? 30, 40? What are our offspring going to be doing to prepare for that time?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where my activism is right now.
That's what's up. And let me tell you something, Ty. Like I told you earlier, sometimes you don't see your greatness realized. So, you know, as an educator, I get that. That's greatness and all that from, you know, what it takes to do it to actually doing the job, bringing children together and educating them. It's a lot into that. But also, another great thing that you do is you bring adults together and you empower, uplift, and celebrate adults with your Gay with Purpose party. But let me tell you something, Ty. By the second one, I'm looking, I'm like, yo, what do I got to do? Yo, seriously. And let me tell you something though. I'm like, I'm not gonna ask. I'm not saying nothing. I'm like, I gotta keep working. And that's what it's about though. It's about like doing that. So for me to recognize you and for us to recognize each other, I like that you do that because I know a lot of the people that you did, and it's real. That's the best thing about it. We could do this, and there's nothing wrong with that. We could do this just because, you know, we got a little time to do some good stuff for each other and put it out to the world. Positivity. But like Chevelle, I know her. She should be celebrated for what she does.
Absolutely.
And she's been celebrated for us to celebrate each other, like I said.
Right. And that's my sister's childhood friend. You know what I mean?
You know, if we celebrate Jamar, we grew up with him.
Right.
He does his thing down there. And there's other people. I just think that that's a good thing. And you told me that you just switching up the annual time when you're doing it. But I'm glad that you said you're gonna keep going with that. Like, what was it? What made you want to do that?
Well, you just said it. You know, it's like that honoring people it's like we got to do that for one another.
Yeah.
So for me, when I remember going to an event, and anytime I go somewhere, like I'm always looking at how I can gain inspiration. Like I'm not necessarily like a biter. I don't like biting off people, but I feel like you could get inspiration from anywhere and make it your own thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what life is about. You know what I'm saying? People gonna do that whether you okay it or not. It's like, okay, I gain inspiration from negative things too. Even people that I don't like all the time.
As long as you learn it.
You know what I'm saying? So, but that's what it was. I went to an event. My mentor, I hooked up with her. I just started being around all of these movers and shakers, and I'm like, man, like this is what I want to do. I knew at that time that I didn't have the capacity or the money or the energy to do what these people were doing. So I was like, well, what can I do?
Right.
That's what do I have the ability to do? And so that's what I did. I came up with a plan. I said, okay, how much money would it cost for me to do this? And I knew that I didn't want to do it too much in like club atmospheres. I wanted more of an intimate kind of setting. So, and I wanted it to be nice though, you know what I mean? Because it was a day party. So I'm like, okay, I like the party, but lately in where I'm at in my life right now, I don't really like to party around a whole lot of the same people that I grew up with. Like, I'm gonna just be honest with you. Like, I don't want to be around the same environments with the same people. And I always say this, drinking the same drinks, doing the same dances, listening to the same songs. Like, I don't want that. You know, and it's not like I don't want it sometimes, but for the most part, and where I'm going in my world and on my journey, you know what I'm saying? It's like this is what I'm trying to get to. And one of the things that I realized, even with you asked me like my inspiration, I realized that me having this education from being a like studying early childhood development and education, I will often try to like share the things that I was learning with my sisters, with cousins and other people around me because I'm like, this is what I learned. So then, but it becomes this thing, right? At the first part, it was like, oh, you're not a mother yet, so how you gonna tell me what to do? You're not a mother. But then when I became a mother, and then I start implementing certain things on my own daughter, it was like, why are you doing that? It was like, it was always like
kettling pot in your own world.
I couldn't win. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, I'm trying to win because I feel like I got something that we never had. You know what I'm saying? Even when I honestly speaking, when I studied early childhood development and education, I had a chance to reparent myself.
Yeah.
I had a chance to correct some of the things that my parents didn't necessarily know to give me.
That's the power of parenting in general.
That's the power of
learning.
parenting, but a lot of people don't know that, and they don't take that responsibility.
Because let me tell you why. Because a lot of people don't embrace parenting. I feel like a lot of people generally like it's you grow up, you want kids for the good things about it, like to take care of a young one, just the beauty of it. Mm-hmm. And then I think when you get a little older in it, I don't think that changes, but I think it becomes an obligation. Not so much as a job. People would say a job. I say the obligation is just enough. So it's like, I enjoy it when I do, but other than that, it's fulfill an obligation. And people keep it that simple, which is okay. Mm-hmm. As long as you do complete the obligation. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's kind of like where it separates. Like a lot of people get, it's where you at with parenting with it. How you feel about it.
Some people too, they think that that's one of the reasons why it's interesting this age group that I've been around now, like high schoolers. Because a lot of people think that, once they kind of hit puberty and then they kind of start to change, they think that now they want to give them space. Mm-hmm. They want to kind of let them go at that moment, but what I'm realizing now is like that's the time you need to hold on the most, because I feel like they experience puberty and they get a different set of eyes. They don't even like right now, and this is from observation. I know with my daughter, like I ask her certain things that we would do when she was just like 10. You know what I'm saying? She don't remember. Just like we don't remember things we did. We don't remember everything. You know what I'm saying? We start to grow and we transition, we change multiple times. So with them, they just finished going through puberty. They're experiencing the things that they're experiencing in school where they're trying to it's this whole social and emotional thing. And, nowadays we have a different layer with the whole digital world, and it's a lot, you know what I'm saying? So big. The thing is like, how are you helping them to develop into a responsible human being? And a lot of people, they let go at that point because they feel like, they think they know everything. Yeah, they do. We all did. But you can't just let them go. Because if you let them go, then you pretty much, you allow others to teach them, because that's a pivotal moment. They need to be taught by the people who are going to guide them the way that they should go.
Yeah, I think one of the best ways to look at that is, it's effective to kind of grow with your child. Yep. You might have what you know. We know because we're more experienced in them naturally. But if you learn, don't be so stubborn. You might have your ways. If you learn something, make the adjustment. You have the time. That's the fact that you have the stretch between them, and you making a proper adjustment as you go along. Because one thing I do is, if I learn something, I show my kids I just learned something new as an adult. So I tell them that at this age, I can still learn something simple. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way, even if they don't get what I learned. They learn that, you can still keep learning? Yes. So you never feel like it's over.
Because then they learn it by example, and we're leading them. We're not leading them so much about what we say. Yeah. We leading them by what we do. That's how we learn. That's how we were molded. So if it's certain things like that weren't done, like for me, I can only speak for myself, Mm-hmm. Like I realized that I had certain gifts when I was younger. I knew it, you know what I mean? Some of the things that would happen, but my parents didn't know to cultivate those things. And I'm not saying that they should have known, but I feel like that's the thing when it comes to parenting. You have to be very intentional about becoming a parent. Because if these are the responsibilities that a parent should own, but for me, what I see is too when it comes to activism, right? Studying our culture, studying the transitions through time in terms of where we were and where we're going, And what I see is that even with early childhood development and education, it's one of those things that I feel like is going to save us. You know what I mean? Because it's like these things are not being taught in our inner city communities. How to effectively prepare yourself mentally and to grow up before you have a child. Because if you don't ever take the time to mature and grow at your pace and how, just to get yourself with some kind of skin in the game, now you have a child. So that's a kid with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be hard to materialize into anything outside of the limits and the boundaries that were set upon us. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, and when I speak and when I, share my knowledge and my expertise on these things, it's like I've been in the thick of it for a very long time. And I think, again, studying like what happened with my brother, this country, the ways of this country, the things that be happening and gotten away with. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, how do we value ourselves? What does that look like? What does that mean? Valuing ourselves mean that we develop properly. We give ourselves room. We give ourselves the permission, you know what I mean? So if something is not serving you or helping you to grow, remove yourself from it. You know what I mean? Keep putting yourself in a situation so that you can win and you can grow. And in turn, you'll increase your value, like how we gotta do.
Yeah.
And now that's how we move. You know what I'm saying? So going back to you asking me like how do I think you said how do I manage, or how do I do this, or where is it rooted in? It's like I may never get an apology for my brother's death. That's the reality. They never apologized for killing my brother.
Say his name, Taaj, because
Earl Faison.
Earl Faison.
Yes,
because,
I got his shirt, the face shirt.
That's one thing. Like I know it's sensitive to you, but for me, I think that I'm big on remembrance. That's what keeps you going. So you remember him, but when you do, and I'm further on, Taaj, say his name sometimes because I don't know him, but guess what? I'm connected to you, so I'm connected to him. I know, so I need to remember that. If I remember people
Earl
that
Faison, EARLFAISON. I created a hashtag for him on Instagram, but
I see a lot of this stuff with it. But because you was talking, a lot of that stuff was important. When you talk about qualities, as in those things we was talking about. But back to your event, what do you look at when you selecting the people for your Day with Purpose event? The people that you want to celebrate. What stands out to you for you selecting people for your event?
When I first did it, I decided to do it. It wasn't really a big deal. It was just more so like I could look out and see a lot of people doing things that were good, but it was like people that I know for sure. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I was scouting or anything like that. It was just like, oh, these people have done a good deed, or they have shown me. I see it in them. You know what I'm saying? I might.
Good.
I might not see. I might not see everything that they do, right? But from what I see in them, it's something that's worthy of celebrating. So, like you mentioned, Chevelle, right? I saw how with Chevelle, she just started to do her own thing when it comes to the bodybuilding. And then when she did everything with the when she first started out, I was just like, man, like that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's she doing? But then it was just like it turned into this admiration. It turned from a kind of being a little judgmental because I'm like, oh my God, like she, you know what I mean? She got too many muscles.
I'm about to tell you right now, we ain't going to really go into this. If you ever get to know Chump, she ain't like this, but me and my wife is like best friend, bestie. So I think when I came home, Chump, she had just started getting into bodybuilding. To the point I'm gonna make is, I saw what you saw, because I remember I used to tell Chuck, listen, tell your friend I want to work out with her, because I was still in workout mode, but she was like, all right, but she'd be serious about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, it's your best friend, like you put me. But let me tell you something though, Taj, to your event, and that's why I asked what you used to select it. We can show each other love, but we do gotta start checking each other rightfully. It's the right way to keep. It's to call the pull up. So when you selected those people, like you said, I could have did 2 episodes. You're like, I'm a celebrity. Anybody can do 2 episodes. Are you serious about what you're doing? Even if you only did 2, it might be a reason you only did 2. Conversation we had earlier, that was my purpose about it. It's about looking into you. I know why. I know what I look into it. And the biggest thing about any of these things that's incredible is the process. As kids, we used to the finished product and being wild by that. I'm wild by the process. I like how you got there. So that was one thing about your book. Like when that jumped off the other day, I'm like, damn, we just talked, and next thing you know, it's a post about the book about dropping a couple minutes to hurry up. And I had to like delete that. I had to put the Amazon Prime in to make sure I get the free thing. I'm like, hold on, let me do it and make sure it's there. That's when I did my little quick scan. I'm like, all right, I'm there. I did it. And that's another thing too, though, Taj. Part of my aura is us doing the real part. So I feel like I'm past it just because support, like you actually did it. So even though, like I told you, and I didn't reread, I'm going to read it because I do want to see what it's about. Because I'm gonna give you as a friend, what you need to know, and then I'm gonna give you snap, Taj, you did it, and that's what it's about. So, like all your stuff that you do, like I'm proud of all those things also that you do. So your activism, it's not what you do, it's how you do it.
It is. It's like I want to do things a different way.
A lot of your videos, like when you be going live on Facebook and stuff, when you sitting in the room, when you show the auras and things, see, for us that know you, and then that's the things about like these things, people that get to know you, it's really you. So when you look into it and open yourself up, like we talked about, trust into that person's perspective, it's like, that's big, but you know how you help a lot of people by opening yourself up, even with your things. It's people going through that. It's people that just need to hear it. And for you getting yours because just saying it, getting over that hump of saying it, sometimes you might have just had to put it right back into your own ears. So that's why I said where your power is at, Taj. And also, I want you to speak to, you said you might want to, we're not going to put nothing that's not right, but you might want to get into some type of podcast, and I think that would be a positive thing. That's what podcasting is, different perspectives. So I think your perspective would be good. Like, keep trying to empower women and children, and us men too. But like I said, as a woman, y'all mothers, you playing your part, y'all playing y'all parts. So keep pushing that part of the narrative, because we moving into time that we don't know what we moving into. We thought it was different with the digital era, but it's crazy now. So these natural things that we can bring to it, I like these conversations for us to get it out there. So to whoever see it, I know if one person see it, they're gonna get something out of it. So I appreciate that, what you bringing that here. I told you it was something that I saw that you would bring coming up here. So I wanted to highlight those things. I definitely did. And I hope you enjoyed yourself coming up here, this experience with me. Like I said, this is a change up for me. I usually try to, even if it's not there, have a little bit of energy and a little bit more entertainment, and we laugh. But I think that information is out there, and I hope other young women get to see this. We're more adult oriented, but younger women, there's other women out there that need to hear this and know that they can do it.
That's definitely one of the things that I learned early on. Just being around my mentor and a lot of people who she introduced me to. It's like you start to see people that that really are successful in the world, and the thing that makes them so successful is that they just keep learning how to self-develop. You know what I mean? They keep self-developing. They keep putting themselves as a priority. You know what I mean? Because even with that, it's like, I know as a mother that my daughter is priority, and then like even with trying to I haven't had like a solid relationship with like a significant other, which is a strain. You know what I mean? Dealing with all the things that I deal with in the world, but it's also been very intentional. You know what I mean? Like I have like there are people that I love. You know what I mean? There are people that I adore, but they don't support me. You know what I mean? They don't show up for me like how I know I show up for them. Okay. So it becomes a thing where it's like, all right, well, I gotta focus on myself and love myself enough to be my own priority. Okay. You know what I mean? And then after that, I can be a more effective mother. I could be a better, more effective teacher. You know what I'm saying? Because even like days where as a teacher during the pandemic, I feel really wiped out. My spirit feels strained. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But I know that I have to continuously keep loving on myself and keep, you know what I mean, God close to me, because outside of that, I don't know what I would do. Like, you be stretched. You know what I'm saying? So.
Did you watch the Nikki Giovanni, James Baldwin video I sent you? What you like? I liked the conversation they was having. It was I like to think outside the box. I like the fact that they was having it like so they were an actual couple, but they was able to go that far in conversation and make those points and hit those notes. It didn't have to be personal about exactly speaking to this man. It was speaking to all men. Well, I could get it.
Right.
How did you feel about that conversation? Because I don't know if you went to the full interview or you just watched that clip. How did you feel about that? Because you just mentioned significant other, and it does play a part. But you're a parent, so we get to an age where that's a separate part of your life. Whether it's the parent of the same child or somebody separate, that's a part of your life that holds its weight, but it's definitely separate. How do you feel about that? Like that conversation that they had, those duties.
I mean, the one thing that I find very interesting about that is when she was like, lie to me. He was like, I can't lie to you. I can't talk to you like I talk to.
Yeah, that's the part I was talking about. Bad.
Yeah, because that was the part. Like that's the part. Because she was like, she was like, sure you can. And he was like, I can't do that. And she said, sure you can. You go to work every day. You lie to those people. You smile up in their faces and pretend that everything is okay and well, because you gotta come home with the money. You know what I'm saying? That's I guess the trade off. When you come in here, you come in this house, I catch hell. You know what I mean? Because it's like there's a correction that has to be made. You know what I'm saying? So we have to be miserable in our household at the expense of your paycheck.
At the expense of what it takes to make it. At the expense of what it takes to make it, because let's put it where it really is. First of all, speaking back in them time, I think that we was able to study that conversation and get a better understanding, even for their time. So I had the conversation with a couple of people, and same interpretation, but if you really saying to me that you want me to come home and put the fake smile and lie to you to get over and have a good night, like I do to the job, to the person that's paying, you good with that? So if I really come in and it's like, I don't want to be bothered, I don't have a smile, you would want me to fake that when I had a hard day out there? I understand the part about you shouldn't get the butt end of what I go through, but how about you just give me my space? Why you say, No, and I'm not saying that toward the women. See,
because we had this conversation.
Taaj, hold up. I hope I ain't set myself up. Because when I explain these things, I try to be compassionate toward the woman. So I understand about the heat that comes. So what I'm saying is, the compromise is in understanding that I consciously turn the temperature down even when it's normally high. Because let me tell you what he couldn't say, what he didn't say. When I go to work and I fake smile at him, yeah, all right, that's what's up, man. I'm like, man, fuck that nigga when I walk past. That's real. The backlash is real. What you getting if you get the fake smile, you still getting the same backlash. So it's like I just don't want to be bothered. So I could be like, eventually that's gonna come down. Like that's not the worst of it. All I'm saying is the tension, the mindset, that the thing that takes me into that fake smile is it's like crying on the inside. I'm not that bad when I come in the house. I'm just a little irritated. So why you want the fake smile when I'm just a little irritated?
I think
feel like
What?
you're going too much into it. Like it's just like why you can't deal with me and not be so aggravated, treating me like making me feel like if you able to deal, not go off on somebody out.
You want me to answer that honestly? Because on top of all that reality, 9 times out of 10, y'all make it worse. Situationally, not generally, situationally. Don't take me as no asshole or nothing. But I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. Like, seriously, I'm gonna give you a simple one, Taj, and I want you to respond to this. You be the woman in this situation.
Can I share something from the first point? Because I feel like we
went too far for you to respond. Go ahead.
Well, this is what I think from the whole conversation. Mm-hmm. Just like any two people, if me and you sit and have a conversation about a topic, we're gonna have our perspectives. If you and her have a conversation about a topic, y'all gonna have your perspective. Everybody has their own perspective. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we can understand, sometimes we can't. That don't make you wrong, and that don't make me right. Or vice versa. It's just like, I'm not gonna sit here because I am not Nikki Giovanni, or I'm not James Baldwin. So I can sit and listen to their conversation and take it in and say, oh, I understand what she's saying. And I understand what he's saying. They both making valid points. I get it. But from my own perspective about it is this. From the beginning, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to be with nobody that's going to make me feel like I'm making anything worse. If we're here together and we're occupying time, space, life, family, all of this stuff together, we're a team. And team members, I want you to treat me like you treat LeBron James and all the all-star players.
Not going to happen.
All right, but see,
so go ahead.
Hold on. You saying that's not going to happen, but until that happens for me, I don't want it. So I don't want to be with a man that don't see my value in my work. You see my value in my work for anything else, but in terms of being able to sit and build, that's what team members do. The all-star team members, any all-star championship team got players that all play a role and they on a team. The goal is to win. A lot of y'all dudes, black men especially, y'all not thinking like that with y'all significant others. And ultimately, our children should be the ones at the forefront that we trying to win with. Our family should be that winning team.
I'm glad you finally said something contradictory because now you want to shoot back. So my turn. Let me tell you something.
I'm hungry. I don't want to.
This is what it's called. It's called playing your position.
Ooh.
Now, I'm not going to get off script, but let's stick to the point about the fake smile. We're not going to go too far into that, but we're going to use that as our bounce again. We're going to jump back onto that trampoline and jump off.
But let's just say this. Hold on. That's my perspective.
I know, so that's what we're here for.
Respect it.
That's what we're here for. Because guess what? It's at least 100 more Tajes. And I'm sure it's like,
again, but see, that would be me. That would be Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. I don't want nobody to be me. You can understand me or you cannot understand me. You can agree with me or you can disagree with me. That's fine. But my perspective is my own perspective based off of my own things.
Okay, so Taj, up here, I like the topics to be relatable, and I want you to have your relatable parts. So you are speaking, if not for the masses, you're speaking to the masses. So you got to come general with it. You can put your personal on it, but what I'm saying about that is,
no.
Hold on.
That's not how that goes.
So how you gonna confine it to that?
That's you confining it. You trying to tell me to confine it to? No, I'm being who I am. Take it or leave it.
But you can't just leave. So okay. But you just said something about the teammates with the same this is what I got out of that, the LeBron James comment, because I don't even remember what you said. But as soon as you said that, I started blurring because I wanted to cut you off.
I'm sure.
You want so y'all. This is one thing I know it's true. I'm cut through the chick. So y'all the same way will just be cool with our man no matter what and put up with whatever. My man can irritate me. I still laugh with him the next minute. Y'all want us to do that with y'all because sometimes it do be fake.
Stop generalizing. Don't say y'all.
I'm asking. Well.
Because I don't speak for everyone. I speak for myself.
We started about talking about it in a workplace where it's like basically like you do what you got to do to get over the situation, and when you come home, you just give me the shit. That's what you basically saying, Todd. You tell me when I'm wrong at.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is in their conversation. All right. So when it comes to me, when I'm in a relationship with a man, one of the reasons why I don't have a man is because honestly, I don't have time. I don't have time to be trying to fall under what they think and how they feel and all that shit. No, leave me alone. Like, I got other stuff to do right now. I don't want to always have to sit and try to figure you out. No, we're supposed to be a team trying to figure each other out. And if we cannot do that as a team, as partners, then I'm good by myself until I can find someone who understands what it means to have somebody like me on a team. I'm not a bench player. I'm a superstar.
You ain't gotta be a bench player, so let me tell you, I recommended a book to you. I recommended a book to you that you're not ready for. We're not gonna say the name of it, but I'm gonna say we'll talk about it later. With your mentality, with your mindset. But I'm gonna tell you seriously.
Yeah, no.
Todd, don't be insulted. This is my point of view. You gotta be able to take my perspective.
I never once insulted you though, and
I insulted you with that?
Yeah. Was that not an insult?
Well, tell me what the insult was so I can apologize and keep it moving.
I'm not interested in you.
And what? Well, my apologies.
Yeah.
It's gonna be real though, because my point is not to offend. I don't mind opposing, but I don't want to offend.
But you.
All right, so I ain't gonna offend you. But seriously, all right. So let me get back serious though. Seriously, go ahead.
As my brother, like at the end of the day, you are responsible for the things that you allow to come out of your mouth.
Right.
You have to think about things a couple times. Run that back real quick.
So let me bring it back.
What you just
said. I had a little bit of fun. So let me just bring it back. I don't got to say nothing. I'm gonna just get to what I was saying and be more serious and make my point. The book that I was talking about was, and I was going correlated to a conversation I had with a man also about the book it was about men and women relationships, but it wasn't just about relationships. It used that to show how I can be a man and let her have her power and even submit to her power and her ways while still having mine. So when you say that, that's why I said it's a little off. When you say somebody to match you, you're a woman, Taj, and it's not a man versus woman thing, but you're a woman, you have your own power, let the man have his, and y'all play your part. That's why I said playing your part earlier. It's not putting nobody in their place. You said
that though. You said everybody had their place.
I have my place too.
But that's a team. When you got a team, what you got? What's the positions?
But there are natural positions.
What's the positions on the team on the basketball team? You played on the basketball team.
Guard, forward, center.
Guard, forward, center.
Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center.
Alright, so we saying the same shit. We on the same team. You a forward guard, I'm a shooting guard. How we gonna know how to how we gonna know how to win a game if we ain't sitting down communicating and explaining to each other our plays?
I'm glad she added that. She should have used sports because the fact that one person is a shooting guard and the other person is a power forward, that explains the skill set. And utilizing each other's skill set is what we need to win. Put right into our conversation,
I'm not
and
going
playing
into
our
the
parts.
skill set. I'm talking about the position.
In a relationship, though, the position, playing our skill set.
As a team, with a family of children that's trying to make it. Because ultimately, all that we have is our future. We trying to set our children up for the future. Y'all, but I'm going to be honest with you. Y'all are so, y'all are, as black men, this is what I'm going to say, black men as a majority, and this is from an observation, not a judgment.
You ain't letting me do that, but go ahead.
Because I wasn't insulting you either.
Smooth down, Ty.
So when it
that's
comes
love,
to,
though. I'm gonna let you do that.
When it comes to building, and I'm gonna talk to the queen right here, right now. Gotta talk to you. When it comes to building, a lot of our men have become so attracted to the shiny things, you know what I mean, to the things that are not necessarily going to bring any fruit. Their friends, money, cars, not necessarily everyone, but for the most part, their focus is on getting it, being a provider, doing this, doing that. I gotta get it, I gotta have it, I gotta be this, I gotta do that. Meanwhile, we as the women, we understand the importance of nurturing, creating, preparing for the future. There are things that come to us innately that a man won't ever feel. Not necessarily to compare us, but we talk about the physical, you know, you guys are the providers, you guys are the overseers, you're the protectors, you're the strategy, right?
Yeah.
But as women, we have things that are built within us innately. And a lot of times what's happening is, and even for me, you know, I was born Muslim, raised Muslim, not necessarily in a very immersed type of lifestyle, you know what I mean? But it was there, it was present. And so through my years, I would often be brought back to it, you know, and like one of the more recent stories that this lady said to me, this older, beautiful Muslim woman, she was like, you know, women, she said the Quran, the surah in the Quran is called Al-Baqarah, I want to say.
The longest one, that's surah 2.
And she talks about women being a man's blanket. She was like, a lot of times our men, they go out unprotected because they think that they have it all figured out, but they don't realize that your woman is your blanket. And a lot of times it's like, as teammates, as team members, we're on the same team, we're family, we're supposed to be, this is supposed to be our investment of our time, our energy, our love, our affection, because ultimately this is what we're growing.
Yeah.
So if children are not growing in that type of environment, what are we expecting from them? You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, okay, before you know it, now, and I'm gonna just kind of relate it to like more recently with the pandemic and all this other stuff. Now we got our elders are dying off, you know what I'm saying? Dropping like flies. Like people in general are just dropping like flies, and then it's like, what have we cultivated? Have we cultivated enough love to last us?
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of us, we become so combative and fighting all the time, and everything is just so filled with frustration and anger. But remember, I told you, like, we all speak our own language. Yeah. So it to me, I feel a lot is super zoomed in on the whole idea of gender and, you know, just this sexism. And it's like, at the end of the day, we are all human. We all have feelings. We all have ideas. We all have things that we're trying to figure out, you know what I mean? But like, we're not each other's enemy just because we want to love one another. Like, I'm not your adversary. I am your ally.
But you know what, Todd, and that's why I said I'm glad you, like I was telling you, remember I told you about my podcast, I said, you know, sometimes I like to push to the edge. My thing is comedy entertainment, but in us bringing it back, I think that's a good example for us to show to the young men and women that, you know, we can have these conversations and go there as long as it's fruitful. So for us to have opposing thoughts, you know, I talked to you about it. I said, you know, I was going to go all over the place and things, but to go there with them perspectives and like I said, that thing sparked me to, you know, really push behind y'all. So even though I was just joking off for a minute, out of control, I'm really behind what you're saying, and, you know, the whole women's thing, and, you know, pushing y'all thinking, you know, standing behind y'all when it's needed be, and play my place behind that, you know, instead of always trying to lead, even if I feel like I should or I want to, or as a man. But there are times, and that was my whole purpose when I was making a joke. So I'm glad that me and you was able to do that. You know, we have history growing up as young men and women in the city that went through just growing up in the public school system as urban kids from different, you know, whatever our growing up in the houses was, you know, we came through this vocational system. I was trying to play sports. You know, you was trying to get into the things you're trying to do, and we here now. That was I felt so good about, you know, having Sal there. You see Big Sal came to see us all be here now. We lost a lot of people, and we started losing high school friends in high school. Remember, we lost Quincy and a couple of people, but to see us here, to see you teaching and stuff, that's why I got a kid in school. Like, I'm old enough to say, listen, this is my friend that's a teacher. I do this and we do that, stuff like that, to be able to do that and put that out to the world.
And you know what we gotta start doing too, Penny? I was talking to another friend about this. Like, we gotta start getting together, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think, well, for me, I think it's important when we start coming together and being around one another, students, children's, because it's like, okay, to be able to introduce me to you guys as sons, like, that's Taj, you know what I'm saying? She a teacher, we went to high school together. They might have questions for me, like, Miss Williams, as a teacher, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I know. Like, the children be wanting to just have that.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that they don't always have it, but sometimes they don't. So what my thinking is, like, you know, once things open back up, I'm going to host events where we can come together. And the people who feel like they are in alignment, because that's kind of like where I'm at right now. Like, if we are in alignment, if you are somebody who understand me and respect me, that's what the event day party with purpose. It's the same thing. It's like, as long as we let's start showing honor. Let's get back
to
each
other.
You know,
instead of, because this the thing, a lot of people don't even want it unless it's a certain way. Like, it got to be on the big stage. Guess what?
Yo,
my stage
I had
is big
people
as I
that
make
turn
it.
me. I
Right.
had people that turn me down.
Yeah, and guess what? It's like, okay, I learned to get over it, like, personally, but then, like, it puts me in a different space personally. Like, when I go back to myself, because some things like that have you questioning yourself, like, why would you turn me down? I did everything I could before I came to you.
But not even that. It's like, I didn't really care. I just noticed that they didn't understand what I'm on. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people, like, one of the first people that I honored, DeLacy Davis, Dr. DeLacy Davis now. That's one of my, you know, favorite people. He has been a mentor and a guide for me on numerous occasions. Like, he was actually one of the East Orange police at the time when my brother was murdered. He kind of like went against the police. He was a police officer who went against the police. So when
he stood up,
he was there with my family.
Stood
you know
up.
what I'm saying? As a man, like,
right.
He stood with my family. So I always respected him. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I'm like, I gotta honor him now. You know what I mean? Like, he's an elder now. I see him moving, doing things. He's pushing himself forward. So, but anyway, he why did I bring him up?
Because you were talking about, like, why you do stuff like that in the day party, part of why you started it, and why because of what he did.
Okay, I still ain't got it, but I said something like, I think I brought that up because I was saying how, like, he you
wanted to honor him.
Let me see. It was something else.
Okay.
But I was trying. But basically, you know, just that whole thing is like, the thing that he said to me when I called him. He said he typically don't do things like that. He said because he feel like people do it for the wrong reasons. He was more so like, he said, it's because it's you that's doing it. He was like, I know what you about, so I'm good. He was like, but anybody else calling me to do something like this, he was like, I would have nixed it a long time ago. It wouldn't even been a conversation. I was like, oh, okay.
And that's your audience.
But it showed me, it prepared me for other people who would reject it. But, and why? Because it's like, now he putting me on to how some people really think. Some people really think that you're only doing this to boost yourself and make yourself this person. But if people only knew, like, this is what, the 5th year? It's like, if people only knew me making that decision to do something, I knew that I couldn't go big starting out. So I did something.
Trying to get my feet out there.
But
just to do something. But let me tell my point. I started and I did it. And it's a couple of times that I barely had any money. I barely had anything. I know where I go. But I feel like God put it in me to do it. And when I set out to do it, guess what? Everything fell into place. So it's like, that's the things, that's my story that shows me, like, okay, just do it. Just don't worry about where the money gonna come from. Don't worry about how you gonna get a place. Don't worry about none of that. If I tell you to go, go. And I went. And it has been like one of the most fulfilling things. And it's not so much about me being somebody that's being at the forefront or whatever, because I don't even really be wanting to be seen much. I just want to be seen by the people who are in the space. So if you come and you're there and you happen to hear me talk, and as I'm honoring them and telling people what I see in other people, it's like, that's all I want to do. We got enough people breaking us down. You know what I'm saying? Every time you turn around, somebody trying to break you down for who you are not, or a decision that you made. It's like, why not support me? Just like with Chevelle. So many people I know share in that sentiment. Like, oh my God, what is she doing? You know what I'm saying? She bodybuilding, but it's like, yo, she should be commended for that.
I thought it was
she's
ill.
doing
Like,
something awesome.
I looked at it for what it
her
was.
goals.
Like, and sometimes, even when you know the person, you got to take it outside of that because that'll cloud your judgment.
What you mean? What she done?
Like, no, what I'm saying is like I said, I saw like her progress. I'm like, yo, she hella competition. Every time I see it, because I didn't know her personally. So once, like, she my girlfriend, so I'm like, all right, cool, she does this. I start following her. I paid attention. I be telling her about her stuff. I'm like, yo, she had a competition, she had to fly for a competition. Because I'm like, yo, she stayed doing it. And guess what? It appeases me where it don't have to be her. It catches me like if I'm looking in the magazine or on Bleacher Report and stuff like that. So now it's just a respect for it, and now you just check for it. And you can respect that. And like I said, I take it like this, to know the person, just like if I knew the most celebrity, I know her. That's where it starts.
And that's always like, you know, how often do we
in a female bodybuilder?
Just for following a passion.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't even know what that is. So, and then for me, and another thing that happened from that, her son Nas, he was there, he came. Mm-hmm. And initially they didn't let him in. We was at Taste Venue downtown.
Okay.
And then they ain't let him in. It was
a
whole big deal. Chevelle called me like, sis, they not letting Nas in. He was 20. But I'm like, yo, he of age. It's not like, but
did
you know, they was all bougie
like,
or whatever. No, let me tell you, the lady everybody gave me a hard time. The Lacey Davis walked up and knew the person, and because they knew him, he walked in with no problem. So that's the thing, like, about how even knowing people and all of that, how it worked out. And so I remember even like hearing Nas talk about it at the end of it, he was like, this was awesome. It's something that I ain't never experienced before. You know what I'm saying? And to be able to be there when his mother was being honored, it's like, yo, like, why not? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that, honestly, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I just had this idea because I'm like, yo, we need more good vibes in the room. Yeah. We don't need no hating energy. We don't need no negativity because it's enough of that tearing us. It's killing us. You know what I'm saying? It's killing us more than anything. So why not come together on a positive note by doing something to honor other people? They might not have to be doing something that we even know or understand, but they're following their own road. You know what I'm saying? So one of my last congratulations would be like, that should continue. Activism is that, Taaj. I think you looked around, like you said, when you wanted to see a positive vibe, and the fact that I think you wanted to feel good also, but making you feeling good was making other people feel good. So anytime, because it's not easy to do, you can step outside of the box and do for others. That's a blessing, first of all, and that's a good thing. And I think that's what you're shooting for. But I think that it's special, monumental. We can do it and get yours too. And that's what you're doing now. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, like with your book and stuff like that. And the conversation we had, like, you know, what's coming forward. And I'm not no fortune teller, but like I said, you know, just from the vibe, like, you got the energy and you saying the things that, like, I've been there before. We meet at different paths. Some of us got there first, and some of us just still in there waiting for the next person to come hand in hand and bring us out of there. That's why I said, like, what you wanting to do something like this, like podcasting, whether it's podcasting or just, you know, something like getting your message out there. I believe you want to get your message. I want to help be a part of that. I'm at a place where I've been planning things. You know, yeah, I'm one of those people that like 6 years ago, I wrote down everything that I wanted to do, and that list is like almost like 75% fulfilled. You know what I mean? And so, like, as I journey through my different things, one of the things that I learned how to do was like stop rushing. Yeah. Stop trying to hurry up and get everything done right at one time. Nah, like, and then I gotta have grace and mercy on myself, because like I said, I am in a transitional period. So it's like, okay, I will do a podcast one day. You know what I mean? I know what I want to do. I know how I want to do it. So when it all falls into place, I will be more than happy. But it's definitely like. But you know what? For me, Taaj, with that, sometimes I do find myself rushing, and I try not to. But it's just so much I want to do. And sometimes I feel like it's not enough time. And not to say that I'm all day working and busy towards it, but in my head. And I learned that, like you said, when you said you're 75%, that's big. A lot of people, if you ain't been through nothing, you don't know. But it's hard to
go through and see something through. But for me, it's like I got so much in my head. I learned to sit down and be patient with it. But as I start to get into something, I'm like, I need to get this done. I get so indulged into it, and it's like I want to do this now. I can get this done, so I'll be ready to just go on to the next thing. So I'm learning to
I
more
think that
like
that's good though. That's a
organize
super
myself.
good attribute because I think again everybody don't have that attribute. You know what I mean? Like I don't necessarily have that. Sometimes I feel like honestly I think as a woman, I don't know if it's a more like a maternal thing, but I'm a nurturer.
That's
I
natural.
nurture everything. All of my ideas I nurture. It's not so much that I'm just so quick to just be like, okay, I came up with this idea, now I'm going with it. Okay, I know that I want to do it, but it's almost like I plant seeds.
Okay.
And I feel like with the seeds that I plant, I've learned to rush them. It's almost like you sitting down, you waiting for your damn seed to bud through the soil. You like, you got the light, the sunlight, you watering it, you giving it everything you got.
Yes.
But ain't nothing happening. But then the minute that you just kind of like walk away and you just kind of like give yourself some time, you start to notice. And so for me, I like, even what I wrote about in Journey to Greatness, I talked about the seasons. I talked about blooming. I'm always metaphorical in speaking about cultivating things. And I think that's one of the things that our culture is missing. Our culture is missing cultivation. Because everybody just want instant gratification, but we don't realize that seeds have to be planted. Soil has to be clean. Like we have to give ourselves some time, give ourselves some grace. We have to learn how to work well with one another. Because even what I'm noticing, like with a lot of men's minds, is very compartmentalized and logistical, whereas though women, we're more wired. You know what I mean? And it's almost like if we just really learn how to come together and work together, we could build dynasties. You know what I'm saying? So it's like this is one of the things that I feel has been intentional with systemically interrupting our communities, because it's like if we don't learn the importance and the value of one another and how to work together, it's like this board right here. You know what I mean? You got the board and you got the wires. It's like all this shit work together. You just gotta plug it up and make it work together. If you don't got the plugs, then you got the board. The board just sitting there. Y'all are like those boards. A lot of y'all. No, I'm stop. But men,
us,
black
Taj,
men.
Let me stop you right there, because I think we're in a stage, and I don't want to open no new segues, but I think we're in a stage where it's past. I spoke on playing your position earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's more of my being wired old school. That's more in the home.
Yeah.
But just generally, when it comes to making it as families, because our structure has been so disconfigured, I think right now we just need to rally to we're family. Yeah. Let's make it. Let's make it so, we can try to hang on to my old school ways, which is the women do the women things and the men do the men things, straight black and white. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to compromise because I want to just make it now as a family. I want to make it, and I want her to make it. I want my children to make it, and still my mom, who's God allowed us. Let's just, within our circle, we can always work on that stuff that's fine tuned. But let's make it.
And that's the thing. Like I think, even speaking to that, right? Like you said, it's like the men do the men thing, women do the women thing. Growing up in a Muslim environment, it's so much of that. It's like the men stick with the men, the men stick with the men, the girls stick with the women, and then it's all of this separation. But then it's like, well, we need each other. Mm-hmm. It becomes a lot of dictatorships because the men feel like, oh, I'm the leader, I'm the head of the household. I'm supposed to take us here, and I'm supposed to be the leader of this house, and everything is supposed to revolve around me, right? But then it's like, wait a minute. Your woman is your blanket, though.
But see, those are the ways, Ty, that I think that, and let me not be a hypocrite, and I throw a big word out on myself, because I'm fine-tuned, deep wired like that, but I've learned, and it's been hard to adjust, but I've learned, even though I learned the information, I've adjusted to, it's not like that no more. Those were different times that those rules were made, implemented. So, and what I'm going to say to you is like, when you talk about those duties and stuff, Like I learned to compromise. That's all I'm saying. To where, like, you can be simple things within the household, the duties. I learned to compromise to make it work instead of saying, well, this is yours. If you don't do yours, well then let's look down on you. No, let's make sure you do yours, or let's make up for you to do yours. Because maybe if we do that right now as a start, then we can make it to the point where it's like, all right, now we can set you in your place to do yours. A lot of things is positioning to me. So those households, when I say disconfigured, I believe that if we grind it out now, if we learn to grind it out and work with what we got now, I think me and you talked about working with what we got now.
Like,
we'll get to the place to put them in a position like that.
That is imperative. That is so important. Because we don't got nothing. What else do we have?
Exactly.
We don't have no choice but to figure it out.
But see, me and you understand, as adults, we understand figure it out. But remember, we talking like the kids always hear us. That's how I talk. Even when the kids don't hear me. So
but even
figure it out. I don't want to confuse my kids with figure it out because
no.
Work it out.
As adults.
I like to be more direct because I believe in solutions.
I said what I meant to say though.
But when you say figure it out,
as adults, it's our responsibility to figure it out. It's our responsibility, not children, not your kids, not my kids, us. It's our responsibility to figure it out. A lot of people sit back thinking something's going to fall on their lap. They think that, it'll work itself out. Everything is going, they praying, they got their Bibles, they got their Qur'ans, everybody's sitting around, they praying, but they're not working to figure it out. You see what I'm saying? So this is what I'm telling you. This is what I represent.
Okay.
I represent the figuring it out. So I'm not saying this to make anybody feel away. I'm saying this to say, this is what I had to take control over my own life. My mother, what happened with my mother that was wrong with her being a whatever type of mother that she could have been to me, that is not my responsibility. That is hers. She got to own that. If she's good with where it is and what it is, then you know what? To God be the glory. If she is not good and she feel like there's things that she want to do to correct it, and to God be the glory. Either way, it's not my bag. My bag is what am I going to do to make sure that generational curse-wise, how am I going to transition it, reverse it, break it, whatever, with my child? I have to figure it out. And it's only going to happen if I'm taking that time. Right. So that's when I say, like, us as families, especially as Black families, like, it's so many things that were wrong in our upbringing. And it not necessarily wrong by anyone's intentions, but with it's like from slavery, you know what I mean? And what we have been experiencing in this country, when have we seen many people outside of the celebrities and the rich and famous make it? Yeah. You know what I mean? How often do we see a successful company not company, but a family from the hood with the mother and the father who stayed together and who raised their children to be high value people, like shoot for the stars, don't, you know what I mean? Don't, what is it, land amongst the moon, whatever. Like how many of us have really pushed, you know what I'm saying? So even for me, it's like the opposite, you know, and I'm going to say this because I really do feel like this is a part of like my story and why I'm so passionate about all of this. Mm-hmm. It's because, you know, growing up and being kind of like knowing that you have a special gift inside of you, but when you are trying to exude it or show it or be it, and you have people around you that's kind of like making you to feel like you need to sit down and be quiet and shut up and don't move because I said don't get your ass up out of that seat.
Yeah, so that, and once again, like I said, that's what I learned to support about
it's like
you women is that, you know, y'all don't have to do that.
And but let's think about this. Did they tell Michael Jackson to sit down and be quiet? Did they tell Beyonce, girl, go put that microphone down, go sit down and be quiet? Don't nobody want to hear that. You making too much noise. What I'm saying is, we gotta figure. We have to pay attention. Our children are gifted.
Yeah.
They are gifted. They are talented. And just because of our own, they're ours, but they're not ours. They're here to do and be. Michael Jackson was a product of Joe and what's the mother name?
Cat Dog.
Cat. But he was his own person. He had his own thing going on. And I feel like a lot of times you got parents that will, because of their own fear and because of their own, mindsets and their own lack of understanding of really what it means to raise a child who is free and carefree and fearless and their own individual selves, confident, you know what I mean? That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that has been my intention, you know what I mean? Like even with Sahar, like my biggest thing is like confidence. Like I know that, sometimes confidence can come off as arrogance, especially with our children now. If you come across a kid that's super intelligent and super smart, you're gonna get one or two things from other people. Either people gonna love her, him, them, or they're gonna think that they're highly annoying. And you know what I'm saying? Some people gonna be like, here she come. You know what I'm saying? It depends on the person. If you have just like a person who appreciates art. Everybody don't appreciate art.
Yeah.
So a big piece of Basquiat on a wall to somebody who understand and appreciate it, when they walk in, they see that shit on the wall, they're gonna be like, whoa, right? But somebody who walk in the door who don't even know, who ain't even on it, they gonna walk in, it ain't gonna be no reaction. It's gonna be nothing. So it's like having that appreciation of the art, the artist, you know what I'm saying? The person who is harboring a gift that sometimes we don't know what it is. It's not up to us to say. It's not up to me. Like I see my daughter gifts because I know her and I watched her. I've observed her since she was little. Like my daughter was creating these little intricate 3D floor plans out of cereal boxes. She would cut a cereal box up into and make little pieces. She made a whole little studio apartment. The refrigerator, the oven, the shelves, the doorknobs. Yeah. When I tell y'all she did this at like 6 or 7, it blew my mind. I said, anybody else would have been like, girl, get out of here with that cereal box. Get that cereal box stuff up off my floor. Yeah. But she was so just like soon as we'll come in, she'll say like say we're coming from the supermarket, and she really had her eye on this box. This was her way of thinking. She come in the house, she'd be like, Mom, can I take the cereal out the cereal box?
Oh, she wanted the box before they was finished.
She wanted it so she could go cut it up and go into her own little mold. And so that's when I knew, I'm like, she is a creative. So I wish I'll show it to you someday.
No, I like stuff like that, man.
You know what I mean? And then this is what I'm saying. Like as parents, like that's one of the reasons why I don't know if I've mentioned this or I talked about it enough, but I became a parent coach because I realized no, I don't always have, or I should say I don't have all of the answers. But the things that I've learned, the things that I've been able to apply, not only with children in the vicinities that I've worked in, but also like with my own child, like I can see the importance of having the knowledge and the wherewithal to be able to do what you have to do with them, you know what I mean? But not necessarily controlling them or manipulating them. Because a lot of us do that and we don't even realize it. And before you know it, a lot of times our children end up being in these situations where they're like, they grow up resenting us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And sometimes the parent resent what they did. You know what I'm saying? Once you notice it, the kid will throw it at you. That should hit you a little bit later after, so you get an extra little tumble effect.
What you're doing is affecting them. A lot of people like, they just a kid. They don't know. Yeah, they remember that. And then you be like, oh, I was such a good parent to you. And they be like, no, you wasn't. That's why I say you don't know how they feel. And you can't tell them how to feel. You may think you did an excellent job, and they feel like, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
So,
and I actually just even experienced this as a mother, as a teacher, as a parent coach, all of that. I've recently experienced that same thing with my daughter. Okay. Like she came to me and she was just like, Mom, but one of the things that I noticed with her is like, she's so sensitive and she take things and like flips them. You know what I mean? So I know that my job is to kind of continuously teach her. You know what I mean? I have to teach her. So when, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
So it's like I have to mother her,
And so
but I
you
have
teach her.
to teach her. So I'm constantly stepping outside of the shoes. You know
But
what
I'm glad you noticed the difference though. Because parenting and teach different things. Like, a lot of times when we try to step inside the classroom, especially the parent that ain't ready, they try to bring the parent to that's two totally different worlds.
And that's why I know how to stay in my lane.
Parents don't even understand the work and bring the parent to how you gonna pound on it? You don't know what's going on. You pound on them for not knowing. I told you what's going on. Mom, I don't know.
Every chance I get, any what I need to pay for something, you need some
Yeah.
help. Come on, I'm gonna take you to I'm gonna show you how to do it.
Let me tell you that
get up here.
that make a
I want you
difference.
to know how to do it.
That make a big difference. That make a big difference, Taj. And like I said, a lot of stuff going on with you, with those things that you're dealing with, and like I said, from being a parent, and like I said, I'm in your corner, and I hope everything for the best for you and Sarah. So that's a good thing.
I appreciate that. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the fact that you see us and you let me know and you let her know. Like, that was big, like to have her just grab the phone, like, girl, we rooting for you in your corner. Like, she need that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm going to say this, and because it's, it's a reality, it's like, I had to tell her dad, I'm like, she need love. That's all she needs. She need love, not to be spoiled with superficial things and money and, the materialistic. Yes, but she need love. Right now, she dealing with something that none of us never dealt with. That's like going to pre-college as a young African-American woman who is a beautiful, beautiful person. You know what I mean? You got the world at your fingertips right now because you made it to one of the top 20 schools in the country on a full scholarship. Like, that is to be supported. That is to be overjoyed with love. And look, we're here in your corner.
Yeah.
It's like in a lot of our communities and a lot of our families, it's almost like, well, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to go over there to school? Can't you just go to school over here? Can't you just go to North Tech, Science, University, what other schools? I don't know. But why you gotta do all of that?
Can't you just do the norm when when this is the thing, when the kid's potential is jumping off the board. See, it's one thing when you got a kid that's the norm, and you treat him as the norm, but you still push for higher. When you got a kid that's jumping off like that, if you have a kid that's artistically talented, athletically talented, educationally talented, gifted, and something like that, they're jumping off the board. Kids are stronger than we think they are. Just because they don't say nothing doesn't mean it doesn't happen. And it comes back at us. That's the curse of it. It comes back at us when we're not ready for it, when we can't handle it, and we be some grown-ass people. So the kid that you didn't take to, that was crying out loud with their talent, with their effort, it's going to come back at you later in life. It's going to be harder for you than it was for them. Yeah. And this is the thing. I think the lesson in that, we talk about learning lessons in the negative, it's not about you getting your sting because they got theirs. It's about you learning that, because you can teach that to another parent or you can teach that to another kid, because the kid has to do something with that experience and information too.
Yes. That's why I'm hosting. Okay, so I didn't say this either. The renewal of A Day Party with Purpose is now going to be entitled Keep On Blooming. Okay. So it's like the KOB, my kind of like, I don't know, one day I was just laying around like, keep on blooming. And I was like, oh, KOB. I'm like, Kobe. I love Kobe. Every time I Kobe, it just broke my heart, you know what I mean? When everything happened with him and his daughter, it was just like, I sat in stillness for a while with that one, you know what I mean? And so, but KOB, Keep On Blooming, it's a mini conference, and the goal is to like target young men and women who are in search of these very things. Like, they want to have conversations or listen in on conversations with elders who are willing to be vulnerable. Sometimes we don't always have family members that want to. Sometimes we don't always have people that we even feel comfortable with opening up with, but this is where we can start. I'm not saying that it's going to be super successful. I'm not saying that it's going to be a super flop. I don't know. I know that it was placed on my heart for me to try, and we'll go from there, but the goal is to provide a safe space, right? And when we think about anything, for anything to bloom, we have to be in a environment that's conducive for thriving.
Okay.
If you put a seed on a windowsill, right? I heard this from I think Les Brown or Wayne Dyer, I can't remember. But they was like, if you put a seed on a windowsill, that seed will sit there forever and as a seed. But the minute that you take that seed and you put it into a pot of soil and you water it and you give it the sunlight and you give it all the stuff that you need to, you make things
happen. Yeah.
Right. And so that's what the idea of the conference is
so
about.
That's cool. So in closing, Taj, I want you to let them know, when you change the day party. I know you told me, but let them know when the day party is going to change and they can expect it this year. That conference running by them again, and anything else we in 2021 expect what you coming in the near future. It doesn't have to be on a tight schedule.
All right, so to that, the Day Party with Purpose is actually now changing into KOB.
Okay.
So I decided to, kind of like bring that honoring portion of it into an actual event. So it's a 2-day event now. The first portion, the first day is going to be dedicated toward honoring the people who really made an impact on my life. And this year, I'm kind of going with the theme of the culture goes where the women go, which is hashtag the culture goes where the women go, because I've just been like really looking more into everything that we've been talking about today, even when it comes to like sometimes women, we lead with our insight. We go within to lead.
Yeah.
And a lot of times our male counterparts don't really understand it because they don't really even understand what that really is. And by the grace of God, I figured it out. You know what I'm saying? And it's like that's one of the things that keeps me pushing and moving, because it's like I don't have to see the next step in order for me to take it. I'm just gonna go put my foot up there and with the faith and hope that step is gonna be there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, that's how I lead my life, and I'm often trying to lead others around me to kind of come with me, but sometimes they don't see it. They look like, lady, I don't see no stairwell. I don't know what you're talking about. We're not going with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm learning how to just, you know what, all that I really have control over is myself anyway. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing and trying to hopefully inspire other people, because that's what inspires me. So with the Keep On Blooming conference, that is something that's going to be, an annual thing every year. This year is going to be like the inaugural, but it is going to be, for the last 5 years of me doing Day Party with Purpose, it's not inspiration to kind of bring them together, right? So when I first started doing it, I knew that I couldn't do everything I wanted. Now I'm at the point where I can do more. So that's what I'm doing. So outside of that, I started a nonprofit organization last year.
I think I saw that. I was going to get. Is that the LLC also? What we're talking about is the Crown Star Services LLC. That's the LLC. So that's not the LLC. Is not the nonprofit.
No, do you see that one?
No, this because remember, I went into the bio on your portion of the book. So that was the beginning intro bio, and then they mentioned Crown Stars, LLC. I remember hearing about that, but. The nonprofit, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I gotta probably send them an update because they should have received.
You ain't look at the book since it came out?
I read the book, but I don't remember reading that though. And I also saw like a typo. So.
Oh, so now so you gotta get back at them.
Because this was this was updated. I don't know why did they have this, but the Crown Star Services was a company that was like the very first initiative that I had started to try my hand at entrepreneurship. But eventually I ended up kind of like letting it go because I just wasn't really for sure of where to take it. So I've since recalibrated, and so now I do have a company called Proactive Parenting Solutions, which is a company that's geared toward parent education by way of doing, events, workshops, stuff like that, like enrichment services to families or even young children or young adults, basically. And but that is different from a nonprofit organization. A nonprofit organization is centered around emotional intelligence. So I have a program that's called the Saving Face program. So, you know, my brother, Earl Faison,
Okay.
I was inspired by him because he was an artist.
Okay.
And so I just don't feel like he had a lot of resources and stuff like that, or had access to a lot of resources in order for him to fully develop his skills. And so I created the Saving Face mentorship program for
Saving Face.
the Saving Face. So it's almost like, it was like my play on words with like saving my brother. You know what I mean? But I know I can never save him. But I feel like I can save so many more children, and not necessarily save them, but emotional intelligence is one of those things that I feel like is missing in our earlier years of you know, building and really even developing into to adults is something that's missing. So one of the things that I often think about is like when my brother was killed by the police, like his cab was pulled over. Like the whole story was wild, but his cab was pulled over, and they said that he resembled the sketch of a person that killed the police officer. And so when I don't know, apparently he got out the cab and he ran. And so I often think about it like, if my brother didn't run, I don't know that he would have lost his life. I feel like maybe by him running, it triggered something in the police to maybe think that he was guilty or whatever. And so they just, you know, beat him. You know what I mean? That's what I want to think in my mind. I can't imagine that, you know, if he never ran or if he never resisted or if he never really did anything to egg them on, really, I don't know that he would still be alive. But I always think about that night, like what actually happened. Because I really don't know. This was the story that we heard. You know what I mean? So, but I'm always thinking like, how do we effectively handle ourselves in moments of, you know, being faced with things that could potentially have us lose our lives? You know what I mean? Like, how do we build our emotional intelligence to the point where we know how to maneuver? You know what I mean? And so, the program that I created underneath my nonprofit organization is just going to allow students to be able to have mentorships with people who work in fields that they want to, right? Taking it back to, you know, how I feel like I wish that my brother would have had other resources, because he was an amazing artist and writer, and I don't know that he tapped into it half as much as he should have, you know what I mean? So, but even with offering the students professional development by way of the mentorship, and then personal development by way of my own personal teachings.
Okay. So, you got some work to do. You got some stuff coming up. You know, you got a few things, some passion projects, some things close to the heart, some parenting things and stuff like that. So, listen, like I said, anything I could do, even besides this, podcasting and stuff, to be a part of it, like I said, especially with the women's thing, like I said, I got new energy for that. Let me know. And I want to thank you for coming, Taaj, seriously, and spending this time and sitting down and talking to me. I had a good time, a good conversation. It could have never ended. But, we're going to close it up and whatever like that, for the podcast's purposes. But, keep doing what you're doing. And the day party, I'm looking forward to it. That's coming up soon because the spring is coming up.
It's interesting now, though, because even with it now, like being so I transitioned it from a day party to like an actual conference. I'm keeping it virtual this year.
Okay, so
I don't know though. Like I still feel like I can do like a hybrid. I feel like I can do something where people might want to come out.
The purpose of it is what I like about it, and like I said, I honestly meant it was motivational. So I want to see it, but I'm gonna keep working to be a candidate, and I'm only saying that to the fact is that's really me saying that do it whether virtual or not, it's still as important.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, do you think that hosting it right now? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that are still kind of uncomfortable with the whole COVID thing. So,
if you have to do a digital, I would say for the matter of if you want to keep that consistent, if you don't want to let a year go by. And if you feel like it'd be too difficult to do it physically in person, then yeah. But other than that, like I said, the purpose of it, because you have some people that still kept going throughout this COVID that's your whole thing right there. It's a pool of people to pick from there. Then you just got other people, but that came on along. But the purpose of it, you celebrating those people, Taj, that's special. That's something that you do. Somebody else could come and do the same thing, but what you do, nobody else is gonna do. So I say keep that going, whether it's virtual or in person. So I'm looking forward to that, and everybody else to look forward to that. You're one person that recognizes people, so there's a lot of us like myself that, besides recognition, but just want to be a part of other things. We working, but we want to reach out to other people like ourselves. You're a person I feel like myself that's trying to do something, trying to live life right and do something outside the box before it's all said and done. So
absolutely.
let's do that together. And like I said, just thank you. And if you want to say anything on that like that before we go, shoot the regular follow me's and stuff like that. I'm gonna have your little happy name and stuff.
Well, so I'm this. My name is the same pretty much on every platform: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, more for the professional area,
I'm up there.
arena. I think I even got a Twitter, but it's at Taaj Williams on Twitter, Instagram, and then.
If I want to find you this weekend, which site do I need to go to?
Instagram is the best thing because I feel like from Instagram everything is there. It's like a snapshot, and because I'm in the process of updating my website and all that stuff right now. So, but yeah, Instagram is the quickest, easiest way. DM, my email is there. You know what I mean? If anybody just want to email me for whatever reasons.
The book one more time before we close up. The name of it and how we can get it.
Yes, is Journey to Greatness Volume 2.
Okay.
Right now, that link is in my bio, but that's only for the audiobook version, or the ebook, I'm sorry, the ebook. So eventually, we will have the paper copies available. So that it's an anthology it's just different women from different walks of life talking about, how they have been triumphant throughout all of their trials and tribulations, you know what I mean? And so, yeah. And then I have.
I'll make sure I check out the other people too. I'm just gonna definitely do yours. So if it takes me like 2 years to read the rest of the book, tell the other people don't take it first. But so thanks a lot, Taj. And like I said, so that's we're gonna wrap it up with that. And like I said, thank you, Taj, for coming through. And this is another episode of the Back of the Class. On Worth Every Penny Entertainment, and that's a wrap, Taj.
Thank you.
We can get up. I know you're gonna be with the road and stuff like that.
Huh?
But yeah.
I don't even know.